Hawks are investigating the alleged theft of a Pierneef painting from the office of Ace Magashule earlier this year. Now, that was when he was still the Premier of the Free State. Now, we're going to talk about the painting today, not the investigation. It's by South African landscape master JH Pierneef, and we're told is worth something between 6 and 8 million rand. It's emerged that the painting was given to one of Magashule's closest aides, who has admitted to receiving it as a gift. Joining us now, art specialist from Strauss and Company, Allister Meredith. A very good afternoon to you. Before we talk about the specific painting, let's just talk about Pierneef himself. How important is this artist in the broader South African art world?
Well, he is absolutely one of our most important landscape painters. He worked throughout the early 20th century into the mid-century and produced an enormous body of spectacular landscapes. He is very much one of our kingpin artists. He's an artist that frequently appears at auction, an artist that can fetch enormous figures. We were lucky enough to sell a work last year that went well above 20 million rand, so an enormously valuable artist and hugely important in terms of the story of South African art.
And valuable not only for South African art lovers, but he would have a global interest, I'm assuming.
Yes, I mean, he certainly collected more by South Africans than he is by international collectors, although that is sadly more to do with the cultural boycotts through the mid-century. Quality-wise, he should very much have an international platform. Describe his style? Well, I suppose it does change throughout his career. He's known perhaps more for his quite stylized, simplified landscapes, these beautiful pastel colors. A lot of people in Johannesburg will remember the enormous railway station panels that were installed in 1932, but were part of the decorative program of the railway station for many decades.
What do we know about this specific painting that I've referred to?
Well, I'll be honest, not terribly much. It came to us a few months ago. We were asked to try and help establish its provenance. It came to our office with no real clue as to the ownership or its history.
How would it have come to your office?
It was brought in by an individual, potentially looking to see the value of the work. We obviously asked the clear questions about where he might have come across it. When there was no clear provenance in place, we started our own research, and with the help of Gerard de Kamper at the University of Pretoria, as well as Jan Middeljans at the Cultural History Museum, as well as the public, I might add, we were able to establish its provenance.
What can you tell us about the individual that brought it to your offices?
Nothing, I'm afraid. Nothing at the moment. I understand it's being investigated by the Hawks. It's certainly nothing I know too much about. We were just, as I say, asked to help with the research and the provenance.
Would you have raised this issue with the Hawks, and have the Hawks spoken to you in regard to their investigation?
Yes, we have spoken directly with the Hawks. The moment we realized that it might in fact be a state picture, we reported it directly to the Hawks through our attorneys. They have taken possession of the picture. It is in their possession while the investigations carry on.
What made you smell a rat?
Well, to be honest, it is a large-scale, dramatic, spectacular example. The kind of example that doesn't just walk into our office on a normal Tuesday morning.
I guess you'd say, if only, but that doesn't happen.
Yes, I mean, it would be wonderful if it did every Tuesday afternoon, but it doesn't. It has a spectacular period frame. It is also a very large work, as I said. Those kind of works tended to be for major commissions, for embassies, for consulates. And of course, there are some of those kind of works in private collections, but it is unusual for such a major work to come into us with no provenance whatsoever.
Extraordinary that whoever this person is decided to take it to an art appraiser such as yourself.
Yes, and quite frankly, we hugely relieved that he did. It might very well have gone underground and sold, I suppose, on the black market. And thankfully, we were able to save it, essentially.
Which leads me on to my next question, the black market. I mean, is there a thriving black market as far as South African artwork is concerned?
Well, I'd like to think there isn't. Of course, I'm not well placed to comment on that kind of black market. The auction world in South Africa is very, very transparent generally. Whether there have been works trading on the black market, I couldn't tell you. I expect there are, just like there are all around the world. It's a huge issue, and with the increased value of South African art does come those kind of sort of illegal issues.
So the warning conceivably, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, could be as these paintings increase in value, there is the potential then for art or sophisticated art theft.
Of course, yes, there might be, and hopefully there won't be, but yes, it's a very real possibility.
Just a final one, investigative capacity in terms of probing art theft. Given that it's not something that I'm hearing necessarily happens all the time, yes. Are we behind the curve on this, do you think?
Yes, I think so. Not only with art theft, but also with fakes and forgeries. We are crying out for some kind of, I don't know, policing investigative group to be formed to assist with these kind of issues. It is always very difficult because one man's fake is another man's authentic work. So there's a huge element of connoisseurship. There are always many, many grey areas. But when it does come to theft, that should be far more simple, and I wish there was more assistance to stamp it out.
And I guess it also raises the question about better inventory as far as the state art collection is concerned.
Yes, absolutely. And again, I'm not in a position to comment on those inventories and those asset registers. I would like to think that they are updated all the time, very, very accurately. It's not good enough to simply say Pierneef landscape. You know, it needs to be very, very carefully catalogued and documented, and ideally, in fact, absolutely, it should be photographed as well.
Does this painting have a name? I'm battling. I'm looking through my research notes here. I'm seeing lots of other named paintings by Pierneef, near Golden Gate, Twin Peaks, beyond Stellenbosch. I haven't been able to find out a name for this painting, though.
No, it is an Eastern Free State landscape.
Right.
It doesn't have a specific title. Pierneef, of course, often didn't paint exactly what was in front of him. He would sketch plein air and then go back into his studio and tweak things and idealize things. But again, in fact, in the last day or two with Al Gerrit de Kamp at Tukkies, I think we've been able to establish almost exactly on which farms Pierneef would have been when he painted this particular work.
Thanks for coming in.